What is going on, everyone? Tom here from Pizarro's Pieces, back today with another video. So this week I put the feelers out on YouTube and asked you guys, the people that watch the channel and the subscribers, what sort of videos you would like to see me put out over the coming weeks. Now, there isn't no boot sales on at the minute. There's very few toy shows, and they're two of the main sort of videos that I do. Or should I say used to do, because my videos have not been too consistent recently. So I had quite a few people like message and that, and I was talking to some of my friends and stuff about it. And one of the suggestions from the reselling dad was to do a top 10. So a top 10 figures, or a top 10 toy as such. Now, it's very hard when you've got a collection as big as mine. It's very hard to pull out individual pieces because I've got a passion for collecting. I love collecting. I love the 80s. I love the 90s. And it's not just toys or not just action figures as such that I collect. I do collect memorabilia as well, with regards to films and cartoons and TV and stuff. So I put a list together of a top 10. Now, this is a mixture of pure nostalgia, so obviously taking me back to my childhood, the memories I've got and stuff like that. Some of these are part of that. Now, this top 10 doesn't sort of make any order in regards to how much I love a particular franchise, or how much, you know, whether one's at the top or one's at the bottom. I'm a big fan of a lot of things, and I've got, you know, big collections on the likes of Gremlins, Masters of the Universe, animated Spider-Man, recently Jurassic Park. You know, the list is endless. Godzilla, Battle Beasts, Kaiju, Rocky, Transformers, WWF. It's very and a very eclectic mix. There's a lot of people out there I know that who only collect He-Man, or only collect Star Wars, or only collect Transformers, etc. My collection is very mixed. It's very much everything that I liked, and a lot of things that I grew up with as a child in the 80s. So now, the list, I'm going to go from 10 to 1. I'm going to keep it short and sweet on each one, otherwise the video will last forever. So I'll probably do just literally talk about each item for maybe a minute or so. Let me know what you think of my top 10. Like I say, there's certain reasons around some of the items or some of these characters as such. So let's start with number 10. So number 10 is the V figure from LJN. Now, I never had this as a child. I'm very much a big V fan. I do like V. I've got a little V collection. I thought the show was great, the Final Battle in the mini-series. And I acquired this a couple of years ago, probably about 2.5, 3 years ago now. And I just think it's a very cool figure. I've got no attachment to it nostalgically, because like I said, I never had it as a child. But it's just a really, really cool figure. So in regards to top 10, that's the reason why it's number 10. Number 9 is Talos. So everyone knows I'm a huge Ray Harryhausen fan. I love the movies. I've got all of them on Blu-ray, and I've built up quite a collection over the last couple of years with Harryhausen toys. I say toys, they're not really toys. X Plus, they're sort of like vinyl figures. I've also recently acquired some statues, like some custom-made statues. I've got Clash of the Titans lunchbox. I've got, you know, vinyls, books, all sorts. And with a little bit of luck, next week I should be going to the Ray Harryhausen exhibition. Talos is probably one of my favourite characters from the film, so I've just picked him out as an individual to show you guys. Very cool, from Jason and the Argonauts. I do like a lot of the characters, the Cyclops, the skeletons and stuff. But Talos, I don't know, there's just something about the very short scene that he's in Jason and the Argonauts, but it's just very cool the way it was all put together and everything. And it's definitely a nostalgic element to that for me growing up as a kid, because you used to see them sort of films all the time on bank holiday weekends and stuff like that. So number 9 is Talos. Number 8 is Brave Star. Now, I loved Brave Star, the cartoon, in the late 80s. Again, this is very much a nostalgic element of my top 10. Like I said, it's hard to pick individual toys as such. So effectively, I'll say Brave Star as a collective. I've only got a small Brave Star collection now, 3030. Great toy, Tex Hex as well, and a couple of other associated bits. But the cartoon I thought was fantastic in the late 80s. I remember having some of the toys I don't have now, but some of the little characters, Fuzz, I think the little guy was called. So yeah, again, that's more of a nostalgic element. So Brave Star at number 8. Number 7 is the Transformers Soundwave figure. Now, there's a lot of, everyone knows, or most of you guys who probably watch my channel know the story surrounding this particular one that I've got in my collection. Soundwave was always my favourite Transformer. I know Megatron and Optimus Prime are really good, but I just thought the aspect of a robot turning into a stereo was really cool, with the cassettes and everything that used to fly out. And I picked a boxed vintage one up last year at the boot sale. Everyone knows the story behind it. I never actually got it on film. It was a shame really, because I had my camera with me that day, but I was having a really bad day and I never found too much, and I paid £5. Now, it's become, there's a few reasons for it nostalgically. I don't remember if I had Soundwave as a kid. I definitely had Optimus Prime and my brother had Megatron, but I don't really remember Soundwave. But obviously I remember him in the cartoons and everything. So there's the nostalgic side to it a little bit, but also it's probably one of my finds of the last few years in regards to how cool an item it is, or how cool a toy it is, and what I paid for it, and the circumstances in which I found it at a boot sale. I was literally about to walk out of. I hadn't found anything that day. It was a really, really bad day. And then just to have that pulled out in front of you, and to open it up and have all cassettes in there as well. It doesn't matter about the money value, about how much it was worth. I was actually offered a lot of money for it upon showing it on the YouTube channel. I had several people message me. I was offered sort of nearly £300 for it. It wasn't about that. It was just such a cool item, such a cool thing to find in the wild, and it's a prominent part of my collection now. So number 7 is Soundwave from Transformers. Number 6, another great toy from a fantastic cartoon of the 80s, is Tiamat the Dragon from Dungeons and Dragons. Growing up, I was just loved fantasy. I loved dragons and monsters and, you know, all that sort of stuff, horror and werewolves. I still do. I just love it. I love all that fantasy side of things. And the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon was just such a fantastic cartoon, even if you watch it now. I mean, the animation don't hold up too well, don't get me wrong. But just everything in it, it was just great. And I know so many people that love Dungeons and Dragons. And Tiamat, probably more my brother had in the 80s. And I just thought, a few years ago, it's such a great looking toy, and I just had to get it. And I actually got it quite cheap compared to what it goes for now. I'm not too sure what it goes for now. I'm under the impression, I think it's around £300 loose it goes for. I paid about a third of that, if I'm honest with you. I picked it up in the States. And yeah, it's just such a really good toy, colourful. And because, like I say, because I love dragons and everything, it's again, it stands out in my collection in regards to colours and stuff. And like I say, even though I love my whole collection, there's certain parts of the collection you can sort of pull out. So yeah, and number 6 is Tiamat the Dragon from Dungeons and Dragons. Number 5, as a whole collective, lot of nostalgic elements to the animated Spider-Man Toy Biz action figure line for me. Now, I've done a video before on the collection itself. I'll put a link up below if anyone wants to go watch it. But in regards to characters, everyone knows that my favourite character is Venom. Now, there's several versions of Venom in the animated toy line, in the animated Spider-Man toy line, including a double pack with Carnage, and there's also a triple pack with Carnage and Spider-Man that I've got in my collection. They were just the same toy a lot of the time. The talking Venom was one of my favourites. So I just showed you a lot of clip of a few of them that I've got. I've actually got in behind the camera as well the Venom 2 and Venom 1 that I didn't just show. So in total, I think I've got like 6 versions of Venom. Now, unfortunately, I sold my animated Spider-Man collection. It was one of the few things I had left from my childhood up until about 3 years ago. And because I'd bought the carded collection, I decided to sell the loose collection. Don't really regret it because I've still got them here, if that makes sense. I know they're on card and everything, but I had lots of them. I had probably about 18, 20 figures. Doppelganger, the Kingpin, several versions of Venom, Dr. Octopus, Kraven the Hunter. I had loads, and I sold my whole collection at toy shows. I cleaned them up, bagged them up. But yeah, I mean, nostalgic wise, animated Spider-Man was quite a big part of my childhood growing up. I was a little bit older. I was probably like 11 when Spider-Man came out, probably 11, 12. But it was just a great cartoon. And I've watched it all again recently on Disney Plus, and I did actually watch it a couple of years ago legally before Disney Plus came about. I streamed all, can't remember how many episodes there is now. I think it's like 65. It is a great cartoon, as is the X-Men as well. But because I'm such a big fan of Venom, the Spider-Man toy line's always meant more to me than X-Men. So yeah, number 5 is the animated Spider-Man, and as such, the character Venom. Number 4, again, guys, as a collective, this was a huge part of my childhood and my teenage years as well. So under the banner of the WWF, or the WWE as it wants to be known now, I've got this talking Hulk Hogan. Now, I've got a huge WWF Elite collection. I don't own any of the Hasbros in regards to vintage or 80s stroke early 90s toys with WWF. This is the only one I own. And I had this as a child. I also had the Hulk Hogan buddy. My brother had the the Ultimate Warrior versions as well. So my brother was a big Warrior fan. I was a big Hogan fan, as were a lot of kids in the 80s growing up. It weren't until I got a little bit older that you look back and you think, when you look at things realistically, that the Hogan was a larger than life character, as was the Ultimate Warrior. But in regards to actual wrestling and on screen, the WWF had so many talented guys. You know, Mr. Perfect, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, the British Bulldog, Bret Hart, Legion of Doom. There were so many. And it was such a good time, and it brings such good memories. But as did the Attitude Era, because I started watching wrestling again. I gave up in about 92, and I started watching it again 5 years later in 97, when around the time when the Bret Hart Montreal Screwjob happened and Kane made his debut. And I was watching wrestling until the early 2000s. I probably stopped watching about 2003 when it started going a bit downhill. No disrespect to anyone who watches it now, but it's just not for me. Yeah, when Cena was sort of new on the scene, and you know, all the other guys were starting to retire. The Rock had gone into movies, Stone Cold got injured, Shawn Michaels retired, and it just started. It just lost that attitude element for me, and I stopped watching it. So yeah, number 4, although it's not a toy as such, probably more as a collective, but I've showed you guys the Hulk Hogan, the talking Hulk Hogan. But number 4 is the WWF. So now we're down to the last 3, and yeah, these, as with the WWF as well, I'd say most of the things in this video, certainly the top 5, have had big parts or big influences on my life and my collecting life as well. So number 3, now, although technically this is quite a recent acquisition in regard to my collection, it is actually it was a huge part of my childhood. So it's number 3 is Jurassic Park. Now, in regards to one of the toys, I'd say the T-Rex has to stand out amongst the collection in regards to the toys. Now, in 93, when the toys first came out and the film first came out, I had the whole first series, all of them. I had all the dinosaurs, all the humans, the 2 Jeeps, the helicopter, and the playset. Now, it was only until recently I thought to myself, I never really had too much of an interest in collecting the Jurassic Park stuff again. And then, I don't know, you know, with collecting, guys, it's very, it's strange being a collector. One week, you know, you're into Marvel. The next week, you're wanting Mad Balls. The following week, you're wanting Godzilla. And that is very much how it is. And I just had something just go like, oh, I need to get Jurassic Park. I want Jurassic Park in my collection. Like, I've never had Jurassic Park in my collection, and it was probably because I'd had it all as a kid. Now, normally when you're collecting, a lot of people collect stuff that they couldn't afford as a kid, but they wanted. Now, I collect what I like. I collect what I'm into, and my collection is very 50-50 with modern and vintage. So you look at, for example, my animated Spider-Man collection is from the 90s. A chunk of my Gremlins collection is certainly the toys are from NECA, from sort of 2004, 2005 onwards up to today. My Godzilla and Venom collection, very much a mixture of 90s and modern. So when it comes to collecting, it is such a mixed bag, and I don't know why. I just never had no interest in Jurassic Park. I always thought, well, you know what, I had it all when I was a kid. Why do I want it? Something sparked, and I think probably the main thing it was when I found 3 of them at the boot sale about a month ago now. It's 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago. And I got them at a really good price. And it just all of a sudden, boom. And I just started. So I found 3 at the boot sale, and within a week, I'd got pretty much all the dinosaurs. I still need the Stegosaurus boxed, but I've got pretty much all the human characters now, apart from Ellie, Luce. I've got all the dinos. I've got the play set. You lot would have seen that in a previous video as well. Again, I'll put the link up. But I've got no interest beyond the first series. So you've got the Lost World and all that. There's no nostalgic element for me. I loved the first film. I wasn't a huge fan of the second and the third. They were okay. The second one was okay. The third one, you know, a lot of people don't like it. I thought it was okay. But I got no nostalgic ties to it. You know, I remember going to see Jurassic Park at the cinema in '93 when it came out. So yeah, number 3 for me is Jurassic Park, and in regards to a toy from that line, the T-Rex. Now, number 2, it's not hard to understand why number 2, why these are my top 2. You guys would know. Probably in regards to collections in my toy room, these are the top 2 in regards to what I have, in regards to quantity. Now, number 2 is Masters of the Universe and He-Man, the toy itself. Now, I don't have many of the original Masters of the Universe toys. I've had loads over the years, but they've passed through my hands. I've not really been too fussed about them. I've had tons and tons. When I mean tons, I mean dozens and dozens of Masters of the Universe toys pass through my hands. And I've kept the odd few. I've got a Skeletor and a Panther, and obviously you'll see here a He-Man and a Battle Cat. Now, He-Man came out a couple of years, the toys came out a couple of years before I was born, but having an older brother, you get to grips with these toys, and He-Man was out until the late 80s anyway with regards to the toys. Now, my first word as a child or as a toddler was power as well, so you could tell that was a sign of things to come. You know, He-Man was going to be at least a part of my life, maybe not a huge part of my life, because I did grow up in the 80s, but I've got more memories of the 90s. I don't remember too much from the 80s. I don't remember too much as a 4, 5, 6-year-old. I remember bits and pieces, but not too much. I remember a lot about the 90s. I remember, you know, buying the Jurassic Park toys. I had the Power Rangers. I had Boglins. Monsters in My Pocket was big then as well. But He-Man is, and still is, a big part of my life, and big part of my collection. Now, there is a hell of a lot of Masters of the Universe toys out there currently, new ones. I've not really got too much interest in them. In regards to collecting He-Man, I love the merchandise, and it's become very hard and difficult to attain, especially at the minute because there's no toy shows on, and I don't really go too much on eBay. I don't really buy too much on eBay, guys. But yeah, Masters of the Universe has got to be number 2 in my list in regards to collection, nostalgia, and where it is in regards to me growing up as a kid. Number 1, well, I don't think there could be any other guys really, could there? Let's be honest with you. Anyone who knows me, anyone who watches the channel, you all know that I'm a huge Gremlins fan. I have a huge Gremlins collection, and I really don't know why. The Gremlins is probably the only thing in this room that I still have from my childhood. It's the only element of items that I have from my childhood. So the applause figures up here on this shelf, the little applause figures are from my childhood. Some of the original LJN figures are from my childhood as well, but that is it. A lot of people have still got a lot of toys from their childhood, and I have regrets about it, of course, looking back at it and the way I've developed as a collector over the last 7, 8 years. Frustrating, especially like Jurassic Park, because I had them all, and now to think the sort of money they're going for, it's like, oh my god. But Gremlins is number 1 for me. I think growing up, I was actually scared of Gremlins when I first knew about it in the early 80s. So my mum had the big LJN stripe, which funny enough I've got up there behind me, and yeah, I was actually scared. I was actually scared of Gremlins, and I think what happened is I turned a fear into an obsession, and I was just fascinated from Gremlins from there on. And then when number 2 came out in 1990, my nan went to New York and she brought me back loads of odds and sods from New York that weren't available in the UK. I got to see Gremlins 2 on pirate video long before. You got to remember as well, I probably wouldn't have been allowed to watch it anyway. I would have only been like 7 when Gremlins 2 came out. So, excuse me. Yeah, Gremlins has got to be number 1. But in regards to character and toy and nostalgia, it's probably one of the worst ones in my collection in regards to when you look at it in quality, articulation and everything. But the bendy stripe holds a lot of memories for me. It was probably one of the first ones I had in my collection in the 80s. I picked up one recently, didn't I? A boot sale, a carded one. I already had a carded one in my collection. At one point I had about half a dozen bendy stripes, and obviously I didn't need that many. I've now currently got 2 loose ones and 1 carded one. It just brings back good memories as well when my mum used to take me to like the toy conventions at the NEC. There wasn't actually a toy convention, they were called a memorabilia show. I think, when I was like 12, 13, I was very young, and I used to see Gremlins, and whenever I see Stripe or whenever I see any of the LJN Gremlins from the 80s, used to get like a mad feeling, like a little buzz, like, oh my god, it's Gremlins. Because Gremlins is not so much now, but certainly 20 years ago, 25 years ago, was very, very niche, very hard to find anything Gremlins. Now, you can walk into most toy shops and you'll find a NECA figure at least, or you'll find a Gizmo wallet, or you'll find like a Stripe cup and stuff like that. You see a lot of Gremlins merchandise now. You didn't then. And being such a big Gremlins fan, when I see something, it was like, oh my god, like Gremlins. And even now, sometimes when I see Gremlins at toy shows like Sandown and the NEC, and like, I feel like I have to have them. Like, I don't want anyone else having them. And you buy them purely for the fact that you just, I don't know, it's strange, very strange. But obviously, yeah, Gremlins, massive part of my life, and has been, and it's been the only thing that's been there from day one. So in the very early 2000s, I was buying a lot of Marvel figures, and in the mid 2000s, when all the Legends came out, I had a huge Marvel Legends collection, but it was one of them things that just came and went, and ultimately I sold all of them. I had about 35 of them. I sold them. I got a lot of money for them, and that is what started Pizarro's Pieces. Everyone always says to me, if you have to sell your collection, what would you sell? How would you go about it? If you were to ever fall under hard times. And Gremlins would be the last thing. It would be the very last thing, and I don't know why, it's just one of them things. It's just, I've never, apart from, you know, the odd bendy stripe where I've got too many of them, I've never pulled anything out of my Gremlins collection to sell. I've got no interest in selling it. Yeah, it's just huge part of my life, and I just want number 3 to come out now. or if they're going to do a number 3, there's talk of it, but who knows. But yeah, guys, that's like my top 10. So massive thanks to the Reselling Dad for recommending to do that. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Like I said, very hard to do a top 10 of toys because I collect a little bit more outside of toys. But the top 10 I've just given you, there is the odd toy in that top 10, but also there's some lines as such. So the WWF, for example, if I had to choose a top like one from that, it probably maybe wouldn't have been the Hogan. I just showed that as an example, but WWF has had a big impact on my life in regards to nostalgia and memories and everything, and collection. So yeah, guys, let me know what your best, not your top 10 obviously, but like what's your number one toy or line in your collection, and what's the reasons why? Is it purely nostalgic? Is it because you never had it as a kid, or is it you just never had it whatsoever, but you've just got into it recently and you just think it's really, really cool? That is another thing that happens now, is that people are getting into toys they had no interest in the 80s and 90s, and all of a sudden they're buying them because they think they're really cool. You know, I know a lot of guys who are buying stuff that they never had, but they're buying it because they think, oh, you know what, it's really cool. There is some really cool, colourful toy lines out there. The 90s stuff is the thing at the minute. Toxic Crusaders, Biker Mice from Mars, Street Sharks, very colourful, Bucky O'Hare, them sort of really colourful toy lines, and Jurassic Park obviously. So the 90s stuff is starting to all come in now. So guys, look, thanks for watching as always. I am going to be putting out more videos over the coming weeks. Get your suggestions in, let us know what you want to see. I am due to be going to a toy shop on Tuesday that I've never been to before. So I don't know how big it is. I'm going to take my camera with me though, and hopefully get some footage, and hopefully I can pick some bits up. We'll wait and see, because I've got Monday and Tuesday off. So me and my friend Vic are going to go across there on Tuesday, and hopefully I can get some footage, guys, so I can get another video out to you midweek. So guys, as always, thanks for watching. If you ain't subscribed, please consider to do so. Don't forget, I'm on all social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. All the links are below. Catch me there. Guys, until the next video, I'll see you then.